Today's guest is Stephanie Scott Bradshaw, founder and CEO of First and Last PR, a beauty and lifestyle public relations agency that helps brands break through the noise and get noticed. But before Stephanie was helping brands become influential, she had to figure out how to build her own. Now, today we are talking about visibility, entrepreneurship, influencer marketing, brand deals, and what it really takes to go from invisible to influential. Stephanie, welcome to
Hi,
the show.
hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me on. This is such an honor, and it's great to connect with you this morning. So thanks so much for having me on.
Girl, first of all, y'all know I got a story when it comes to Side Hustle Saturday. I didn't just meet Stephanie, she actually was my business advisor when I went through the Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women in 1 Million Black Women program. And I was honored to be accepted, and I was honored to have her as my business advisor. So stop playing, Stephanie. But anyway, that's how we met. And we really couldn't, I really wanted to get to know her story and her background and how she started her business. And so I just took the opportunity and I asked her to be on Side Hustle Saturday. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure.
So tell us about First and Last PR.
Yeah. First and Last PR is a celebrated public relations agency. We have been established for about 14 years and
Mhm.
came about because I was a beauty editor first. I had a chance to hear from every single PR agency, every beauty company, pitching me about their products. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was developing this list. I didn't know it. I didn't know I wanted to be in PR, but I was kind of developing a list of things that I really didn't like about how I was pitched, how I was treated as an editor, what was going on. And so I worked as a beauty editor for a number of years, learned a lot about editing, photo shoots, celebrity makeup artist hair, et cetera, et cetera. And I got a little bored. It was like the same story over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
one of the publications I was at, I just didn't feel like I was going to have enough reach to move to where I felt like I wanted to go creatively. And I started freelancing while I was still there. I was assisting on like fashion shoots and helping with, Today Show prep for a style expert named Lloyd Boston. Also worked on his book tour as well. And then I decided to take a leap and I left to switch to go to public relations, working for a luxury skincare brand called 3Lab. And that was super cool because most brands don't do in-house manufacturing, but the owners of this company actually own a manufacturing company as well as their brand. So I had a chance to meet and learn from the chemists. We would have lunch together. I learned about the ingredient side of things. I learned about packaging. I learned about so many different aspects of the beauty industry that traditionally you wouldn't talk about or you just wouldn't have the chance to learn. But seeing things witnessed firsthand gave me
Mhm.
a really unique perspective into that. And so I worked with 3Lab. One thing that I learned also about PR working with them that I ask every single potential client is, what's your PR experience? Because what I didn't know before working with them was that they had two other PR agencies before I came to work with them.
Mhm.
And both of them failed. They didn't get any press. They did a huge event at, the Bryant Park Hotel here in New York, and they didn't get any stories from it. And so the owner was skeptical, as many first-time people working with PR would be, especially if they had invested so much money into a program that didn't yield any results. But I didn't know that. I came in excited. I came in with a viewpoint. I came in with my editorial background and big ideas about what we could be doing. And then I
Mhm.
found out the kind of insider tea about that. But I didn't let that discourage me. I looked into what their strategy was, and I understood like it didn't make sense. It was too much. It didn't make sense what the messaging was. And so I worked on refining that. And within the first 3 weeks of being there, we got the cover of the business section of the Bergen Record, which is one of the largest newspapers in New Jersey. But if you know Bergen County, it's also one of the most expensive uh, zip codes in New Jersey as well. And that's where a lot of the buyers live, a lot of the newscasters live. I was living there at the time. And so we got the attention of the people that we needed to and started to build this community. So from this cover story with the owner on there and the products, and it was really incredible, we wound up just expanding with retail distribution, expanding globally. So we were not only in the US, but we also branched out to Selfridges in the UK, Harvey Nichols in Hong Kong, distribution with, through Germany, and then also Bloomingdale's Dubai. That was the last store that I opened before I left to go work for Usher, which I did for a year on his OMG tour, top three grossing tours. And when that was done, I opened up my agency because I started getting referrals, a lot of inbound calls. What are you doing? What are you up to? And at the time, I didn't have a plan to open an agency. I really didn't. I wasn't
Hmm.
quite sure what my next move was. I was happy to take a break after the tour because it was, 22 hours a day that we're working. And I just kept getting these referrals. And so I decided to open an office downtown. It was small, probably the size of like, your closet, maybe two closets put together. And from there, just kind of step by step, referral by referral, built the company up 14 years ago. So we've expanded. We have a larger office now. It's more than a closet. We have systems in place and, great things still going on. So very, very grateful for that.
You touched on something that I think is very important when it comes to being an entrepreneur and starting your business.
Mm,
And it's about positioning yourself
yes.
and being in the right place, in the right space
Mm,
for when you want to get into those open doors. And when you
mhm.
were telling me your story, that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
The way you positioned yourself, you saw the opportunity. What kind of advice can you give entrepreneurs right now that are
Mm.
trying to break into their business or they want to get into a particular industry, or they just cannot make that connection? Because it seems like you did that very, very well. What kind of advice could you give entrepreneurs that want to do that?
I think it's really important. I mean, thanks for recognizing that, but I think it's important just to kind of know what your goals are, establish where you want to be, and don't be scared. And if you are scared, do it scared. The thing with
Yeah.
entrepreneurship that I learned, I worked with a nonprofit called She's the First, and Tammy Tibbetts, who was the founder, um, taught me. She was great. Taught me that don't wait for perfection. If we wait for perfection in what we're doing, we're gonna that napkin's gonna just sit there. It's not gonna move. We'll get another
Yeah.
and another napkin and another napkin. But instead, do it. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. You have another chance the next day. But at least your hat's in the ring, at least your voice is there. It's all about that visibility that's like so important. You know, there are some founders that don't want to be on camera. There are certain founders that don't want to, you've got to get out there. Emma Grede
Yeah.
talks, in her book, Start With Yourself. Emma Grede says it's about visibility, it's about proximity. And those
Mhm.
things are so important. And if you have the bold idea to start a company and to run a business, you got to get out there and run that race. And if it's not you, and that's just your personality, then you've got to find somebody else who's going to be that person. You've got to find the CEO to do the running of it. You just be the owner. You find, the chief operating officer, the creative director, you find a celebrity spokesperson, whoever else can do that. But your brand deserves the voice and the world deserves to hear what you have to say. You came up with it. So no need to be shy about it now.
A hundred
Get out there.
percent. I can't girl preach because that is
Mhm.
so true. I think many founders hide behind the brand
Mhm.
and they try to let the brand speak for itself. But
Mhm.
people want to get to know you because once they get to know you, that's how you build community.
Yes.
Because if they're going to rock with you, they're going to rock with your product, your service, because they
Yeah.
connect with you.
Yeah.
Because quiet as it's kept, everybody that wants to be an entrepreneur, you are the brand. I preach that all the time. You are the brand. So you have to
Yeah.
kind of get yourself, like you said, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
But before you did all of that, making all those connections, working with Usher,
Yeah. Yeah.
tell me, Who was
Mhm.
Stephanie before First and Last PR?
She was uh she was fun.
She's not fun no more.
She still is. She still is. She was very carefree. I recently reconnected with a good friend of mine from college. It's a long story, reconnected. I got to know her husband through work, and it turned out that I knew his wife, which is like, how does that happen, right? So as he's like texting her and saying, like, hey, do you know Stephanie Scott Bradshaw? She's like, oh, the hippy dippy chick? Like, yeah. So I've always been, my mom always said I was born in like the wrong era. I'm very much, a 60s, 70s baby. I love vintage. I love, family, things that have real meaning and story and history to them. So I love like the art of all of that. But I think I've always been very inquisitive. I've always been a reader. You can tell by the books I'm surrounded by. I've
Mhm.
always been a reader, now I'm very much a podcast listener. And, very exploratory. Funny enough, I haven't always been someone who's in the spotlight. Like I'm very comfortable in the background myself. Um, when it comes to my business, though, I make sure that I show up. I make sure that I do that. But I'm also the type of person, if I'm out with my friends, I don't have to be the leader who's doing all the talking and doing all that stuff. I'm okay being the follower that's part of the team that's making sure that everything is done the right way or it's in a. And I think that's just why it helps me in PR because we're representing the brand. We're not the brand. I don't have to be the brand.
Yeah.
I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm here to do. I want to focus on that. I don't really want to be distracted by all the things. So I think, as a child and before starting my agency, I was the same way, just very inquisitive, always wanting to learn more. I love a good trade show now. Before I wanted to go off and explore and like pick flowers. Now I love a good trade show. I want to know the secret
Hmm.
behind the technology. So that same inquisitive spirit and that same I think trust that I've always had and belief in people, I've taken that. I can see where in my adult life that kind of brings through in terms of what I'm doing. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So
a
as I like what you said about that. I like about, you are PR and so you don't have to be the brand. So I really can kind of resonate with that. And as you were like building your business and growing and doing all the things, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned?
to get help and to ask for help.
Really?
I think so. You're not living on this world on an island. And I think that so often we're taught to like be strong but getting help doesn't mean you're not strong. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're able to ask for the things that are necessary in terms of next steps and growth and what you need. So I think being able to kind of acknowledge the things that I don't know as much as I can acknowledge the things that I do know, and then look to see where can I gain help from. My funny story about Goldman Sachs is I heard about the Goldman Sachs 10KSB program and I didn't think, I was qualified. Here I am, this beauty editor. I wear pink all the time. I'm all about the lip gloss. I'm all about, all the things. And my editor, when I was at Essence, actually went through that program, Monique Greenwood. She had her side hustle
Hmm.
in Baba Mansions. And so now bed and breakfasts. And so now she has like three of those. She had four, I think she has three now. Um, but I learned about it through her. And when I started my agency, one of my clients went through the program. And so I asked our CFO, like, would I qualify for this? And she's like, no, you qualify, you should do it. And so my business hat kind of started to turn on more than just the PR, just the client. I started to think about more long term, more future, more all of those things that are important. So I think if it wasn't for that, you and I wouldn't have met, which is also a great thing. But again, it's like do it scared, you know,
Yeah.
do it scared. What's the worst that's going to happen? My instructor is going to tell me that I didn't understand. Like, well, okay, well, show me how to do it right.
Right.
What's the worst
Right.
thing that's going to happen? We're all here for a reason. And I won't go down too much of a religious, I don't know what everybody's into right now, but we're all put here for a reason. Stevie Wonder said it. God knew what he was
Right.
doing, right? I'm a big Stevie Wonder fan, by the way. I know he's listening. But we're all put here for a reason. And who are we not to show up? There's that quote from Marian Wright Edelman. Who are we not to show up in excellence? Who are we to, who are we to do that? Like the gall, the audacity of us. You have a chance to be excellent. You have a chance to show up. You have a chance to have this business and you just don't do it.
Right,
Well, what's more
right.
important?
A
What's
hundred
more important?
percent.
How dare you?
A hundred
So
percent.
yeah. So that's what
I always say start messy.
why
I always
not?
say start messy,
Yep.
learn from your mistakes,
Yep.
and build on the way up. Not the way down, but on the way up. Because
That's
you won't know until you try.
yep.
You won't know.
That's
Do
the
you
way.
think you were you scared like when you took that leap? Were you like, oh my God, what am I doing? Were you scared?
I was too busy to be scared, Lisa. I should tell you some, like really pondering and really inflexible. But honestly, when you're launching a company, you don't have time to sit around and think about how do I feel. If I listen, if, at any given day, if I thought about how am I feeling about this, no, I felt excited. I felt exploratory. I felt like, what do we need? Let me tap into that. Let me figure out the best ways to do things, the best systems, and for ROI. I've always been too busy to like think about the fear of anything.
Hmm.
If I did, I don't know, I'd be still sitting back in my apartment in Inglewood trying to figure out my next move after the OMG tour was done. You can't, if you're an entrepreneur, you can't leave. The fear is going to be there. Let's acknowledge it, right? Because you're doing something new. It's
Yeah,
something, oftentimes you're dealing with money that maybe you didn't have before if you have investors coming in, or you have new sales going on. But that's where you build community because you're not
right.
coming into this knowing every single thing. Maybe you don't know anything about social media and like why that's so important. Great. Find someone who does, right? You don't know
Yeah,
about hire first and last PR. You don't know about this, figure it out. There are other experts for you to lean in. You're not supposed to know everything. You just need to know who to call to get things done.
right. A hundred
That's
percent. I totally agree. Was it hard for you to ask for help?
yes. I've gotten better at it, because I'm also very independent. My parents divorced when I was in very young, like third or fourth grade. And so while my dad was always present, I saw my mom, when they were married, I saw my mom working full time and going to college.
Mhm.
I saw her graduate. Then when I was in high school, I saw my mom going back for her master's. And then when I went off to Spelman, I saw my mom go off for her JD for her law degree. So I've always grown up, and that's the other thing. I've grown up in a very entrepreneurial family, right? My grandfather was a chef, and then he became the owner of Esau's exterminating service. My grandfather owned one of the best exterminating services in Central and New Jersey. My aunt has owned restaurants, and I've just grown up with that culture. Even with my dad, who worked corporate, he's in finance. I used to go into his office on Saturdays and help stapling the marketing materials, putting things together and filing. Back when we had files with actual paper, I was in there on the weekends when he was meeting with clients and I was helping to organize. I think I've always grown up seeing, hard work. So for
Hmm.
me, as it's not hard, it's just natural.
Yeah,
If I went to my grandfather's, I was out there with my brother and we were planting in his garden. So all these things just are really like second nature. I
yeah,
think you just got to do it. You just got to do it. That's really
yeah.
it.
I think that's the hardest thing. I know for me, that's the hardest thing because, it's like clutched to my chest
Yeah.
and you don't want to let it go. But I
But you,
think that
mhm.
is the CEO mindset is when you can let it go and
Yeah.
let other people run the business while you help and excel or grow the business. And
Yeah.
I think that's really, really hard for some people.
Yeah. But you know what? It's important for people to know that the people around you want to help you. That was the light bulb moment I had a couple years
I
ago.
never thought about that.
1,000% to use your word, 1,000%. When I learned, number one, your team, the people who work with you, who work for you, they want to build with you. And if they
Mhm.
don't, they're not the right team members to be with you, right? They're just coming in to clock in, get the check, and go home. That's probably not the right thing for what you're, if you're in a building atmosphere. So, what I learned also is that my team members, they want the shine, right? And so
Yeah,
some years ago, I stepped back. I'm like, I don't need to pitch Vogue. I've secured many stories in Vogue, but someone on my
right,
team maybe hasn't. Let them do that, right? I hired them because they're capable and they're really good. So like let them have that shine. People who are around you want to help you. So who are you to get in their way? The other day,
right.
my husband knows I'm very strong-willed, very independent, and he's wonderful because he acknowledges that. He doesn't try and dim my light. It's
Mhm.
like he's his own force, literally, and I am too, but we complement because we're not shutting each other out of that. And so the other day I broke our printer. I told everyone on the team, not blaming anybody else. I did it. I put a label in upside down, and now the stupid thing is stuck in there. And it's, we're on deadline. I've got to print. The thing's got to go out. Found a neighbor in the building who was kind enough to like print the label. Anyway, I broke the printer. And so I called my husband. I think I FaceTimed. Maybe I texted him. I just said, hey, I asked for help. Hey, can you come by when you're finished with work? You help me because this label is stuck. And I tried on my own first, right? I always think, before you ask for something, Google it first before you come to me. That's the rule in the office, right? Before you come to me and ask me something, did you Google it, right? Or did you ask Claude about it first? What did they say? Let's figure out the best thing. So I tried to figure it out on my own. That thing was stuck. I was like, I need tools to like pull it apart. And
Oh
I
my
said, I'm
God.
not the tool girl. I am the pink silk blouse girl, but I am not the tool. So I called my husband, asked him for help. And I know he was so happy that I called. So yeah, it's okay to ask for help. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
not going to do all the things and it's going to be done the best way if I am. No, there's probably somebody who's smarter or more capable of me to do it. That's why they're
yeah.
around me. So let them help. That's why they're here. You got to get out of the mindset of like, we have to do it all for what? So we can die sooner? So we can be moved out?
Right,
No,
right,
no.
right. And I think that's the makings of a true leader.
Yeah,
When you can delegate and let somebody else shine, I think that is when leadership kicks in.
yeah,
I really do.
yeah.
As you were building your company,
Mhm.
what kind of sacrifices do you think that you made when you started to
Mhm.
build your company?
Some that I guess I was okay with because I'm still here and I'm still happy. I mean, one thing that I prioritize, and I learned this from my mom, I would not miss certain family things that were really important to
Hmm.
just show up. So we were doing Essence Fest. Fourth of July is like, our Christmas. We celebrate Christmas, but usually it's like individual. My family, the large family, we all get together Fourth of July and everybody brings a dish and it's potluck and it's just that is our annual reunion. And I grew up with that. That's our day. And so I've never missed a Fourth of July. And so one Essence Fest, I was down there with I think two different clients working and we had all the events. But if you think I was not on a plane on the 4th of July, you know, that either 4 a.m., that 5 a.m., whatever that first flight out of New Orleans was, I was on that plane getting back home. And I don't think I brought a dish that year. I didn't care, but I made sure. So certain things I make sure to prioritize, but I'm sure that I've missed, oh, well, I'm married now. It's okay. I came late for dates, but
Yeah,
I remember one event that we had and I had a date. It wasn't with my husband. But I said I had an event. Like I might, I gave the heads up, but I remember the guy I was dating at the time was like so disappointed. But to my point, I was like, but I told you I had an event. It's like we were producing the event. So the likelihood of me getting there on time was really slim anyway. But,
right.
you know, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. Um, what have I sacrificed? I mean, I'm in a field, so beauty, wellness, lifestyle. There's an event all the time. There are tons of, parties and launches. And so I've missed a lot of things, but a lot of those things have also been by choice. Uh,
Yeah,
one thing I'm missing this year, I'm missing con. So that I'm not at. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna be on social media because every creator that I know is like in the feeds, Oprah's over there, everyone's over there. So I'm not there.
yeah,
certain things you just, you got to weigh your priorities and you got to figure out what is really going to move the needle and what's
Mhm.
okay. You can't be every single place at the same time. It's
Yeah.
just impossible. But I show up for the things that I want to show up. I'm a huge fan of Emma Grede. When her book launch was announced,
Was you
I was,
out there? Was you
oh,
there with the book?
I was there. Funny enough, I mean, I don't even know if you knew. So I bought the tickets. I didn't know who I was going with. I didn't care. It was either going to be me by myself. I said, let me just buy a second ticket and just, ask a girlfriend, whatever. And so we actually had a BA meeting that day. It was a
Mhm.
Wednesday. And so rather than working from my office in Jersey City, because she was going to be in Manhattan, I worked from Luminary, which is a membership that I have in this city, just so I would not have to deal with the traffic. I
Right.
planned to be there. So I worked from there, and then I was like the distance from Luminary to Lincoln Center, which is where the event was happening, I wouldn't have made it because the meeting was around the same time, and I couldn't miss our meeting. So I found an annex with a plug in my hotspot, and I made sure that I was where I needed to be for where I needed to be. I still had enough time to meet my girlfriend for dinner, and then we walked across the street to the book signing, and I was there. So I'm very focused on things where I need to be. My kids' graduations, I'm there. Certain things are just non-negotiables for me,
Hmm.
but then also me time.
Yeah. I
That's
think that's important. I
yeah,
think with all the, especially as women, because
yeah,
we, like you said earlier, we always have to be strong or put up this front, like I can do it all. I can juggle all the balls. But I think we forget, women entrepreneurs out there, that you got to take care of yourself.
you do. You do.
You really have to take care of yourself.
You can't play with your health. You can't play with your health.
No.
You can't play with your mental load. You can't play with any of the things. And as an entrepreneur, I work in a service-based industry, right? So service-based company, I'm taking care of other people's businesses. The amount of pressure that can be, they always say PR is like one of the most stressful industries you can be in, which to me
Yeah.
is easy, like doctor, all these other things with PR. But it's very deadline driven. It's a very competitive industry. So I understand why, but at the same time, we've got to take care of ourselves. Also, this is a creative field. So if
Yeah.
my mind is like on all the things that it shouldn't be on, how am I going to focus on the things that bring me joy that I want to have? I want to live the best life I possibly can. I
I know
really,
that's right.
whatever that looks like, that's what I'm doing. So if it's one thing that's going to take me out, it's not going to be this job in this company, and it's not going to be a client. It's not going to be that. So we got to figure out the best ways to be able to accomplish all the things.
Hmm.
That's, you talk about it, that's your SOPs. That's just making sure that everyone, the communication is really clear, the goals are there, transparency is really big, that we were all on the same
Hmm.
page, but just setting yourself up for success and making sure you do take care of yourself.
A hundred
Yeah.
percent. What do you think are some of the biggest visibility mistakes entrepreneurs make right now?
Oh, so many. Um, I think not asking the right questions before figuring out a strategy. So I think sometimes we'll think, oh, so and so did this and it worked for them on, TikTok or Instagram or wherever they're at, and they don't, it's you can't replicate that same thing and you shouldn't want to, right? So I
Yeah.
think figuring out your strategy first, your brand, your values, and not thinking about it from not only from your viewpoint, but thinking about and listening to your customers, and figuring out who are your customers. Are the customers ones you thought that you had when you first started about the business, or are the customers new people that have heard about it are now gravitating in that you never even knew existed? So like, I think listening, feedback, um, thinking about the best and showing up for your customers. It's one thing that I love. So in launching Double Love Apparel, I strategically said I didn't want to do a big PR blitz, which of course I could do. Like, who's going to do it better than me? Nobody, right?
Right.
But then I wanted us to do pop-ups for the first year and really focus on meeting the customer and hearing the stories and getting the feedback as we're building. I think building out your community and listening to your community is so important. You can't walk in thinking that you know what they want, you understand everything. You've got to be able to like build that out and then make
Hmm.
sure your messaging really speaks to what their pain point is.
Yeah.
What is the thing you're trying to solve, but why is it a problem for them? not just you, but why is it a problem and how do you do that? So I think that's a big thing. Just not showing up for your customer in that way. You got to show up. You got to be
Yeah.
visible. What they want to hear. You got to do the podcast. You got to do all the things. So I
Yeah.
think showing up and being committed to what that is probably like the number one thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Mhm.
When someone's trying to build their brand, how do they know when they're ready for PR?
That's a really good question. So everyone is not needing a PR agency, and I tell people this all the time. There are things that you can do for increased visibility, like doing in-person events, like there are things you can do. When you start to partner with a PR agency, it's basically you're bringing on a full-time person, but it's an agency. So think about it in terms of like budget. How much
Hmm.
would you pay a public relations, a communications director? How much would you pay them? That's what you should be thinking about. So I think thinking about, um, what budget do you have set aside for an agency? What does that look like? Also, where are you with your company? Is there a big growth moment that's happening?
Hmm.
So we specifically with beauty, wellness, and lifestyle, high growth brands. Are you launching in retail? Are you in retail and you are kind of, getting mute on shelf and you need to have a moment so that you're staying on that shelf space, you're not going to get kicked out the store, and that you're expanding in terms of what you're doing in your distribution. So I think when you have like a really big growth moment that's happening, if you are looking to do a raise, if you are any type of expansion moment, so I think one or two, either one, first launching your product if you have the backing for it. Just because you have an idea and you're like, hey, I've got a new thing and I'm going to launch it, doesn't mean that you need PR right away. It depends on how you're structured, where you're planning to retail it. If you don't have distribution, maybe you don't, because that's the other half. Also, you could focus on national press, but if you don't have distribution, then there's no one who can pick it up if you're only selling in like one store local. I also
Hmm.
think that people don't think about regional PR with the emphasis that they should. Sometimes we have, these like big lights, eyes, and we want Harper's Bazaar and we want Oprah and we want In Style. But what's wrong with, the Illinois Gazette? What's wrong? Nothing.
Right.
You can certainly build within your community, let people get to know you there. You can build up a lot of word of mouth communications right where you are if you're just starting out before you start to think about what's happening. And a lot of successes happen that way. There's a brand that we worked with previously. It's a hair care brand. The founder was, I want to say she was like 13 years old when she founded it. But funny enough, she wound up on the Oprah show. This is before us, but
Hmm.
she was based here in Jersey. She was selling at farm stands and kind of, a little bit. And a producer from Oprah happened to come by the farm stand, loved the product, loved that this like little 13-year-old cute girl was like coming up with these hair care products. And she's on the show. And her brand since then has become a major, 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 brand. But if her product wasn't at that little farm stand and the producer happened, so I think sometimes we don't think about what we can do locally and how we can make an impact there. We just want all the things we think we want, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be careful about some of those big things. There was a story that we learned about in program where there was someone who, also another Oprah story. They were chosen to be on like Oprah's list of things. I think you remember
Hmm.
this story. And then when they found out, they didn't have the product ready because
Hmm.
manufacturing was on hold for the month. And so
Yeah.
even though huge opportunity that they thought they wanted, they didn't have all the things they needed in place to get there. So that's the other half of it is like, are you prepared for big press? Because if you're featured on the Today Show or you're featured on Good Morning America, you better have the product in your warehouse or available to ship and ship it on
Right.
time. If
Or
you
have that
don't,
service ready.
exactly,
So if
exactly.
someone had $500
Hmm.
and they wanted to invest in their visibility, how
Hmm.
should they spend it and where should they spend it?
Lisa, I think it depends on the type of business that it is, because it
Hmm.
could be a brand, it could be a spokesperson, it could be, an expert in the industry. It kind of depends. I'm really big on pop-ups right now. I would say if you only had $500 and you were just starting out, find somewhere locally that you could do a pop-up, a speaking engagement, something where you can meet and connect with people in
Hmm.
person. From there, have your email list available to sign up. do a giveaway with somebody else that you could partner. Maybe that, figure out a way to maximize on that opportunity. Think about brand partnerships. Is there, if you only have that $500, is there another brand that will come in to support what you're doing? So it could be that. You could also look at ads. You could look at Instagram ads, you could look at TikTok ads and find a way to promote that way. If it's only 500, it's not PR, but I would look at some other avenues to kind of do that and leverage until you are ready to invest a little bit more in that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, as you know, AI is the thing and it's
Yes.
everywhere right now. How do you feel like AI has changed branding and communications?
In so many ways. One, I think people are under the assumption that because we're now using LLMs more, that you don't need to hire people to do certain things. And I think
Hmm.
that's a huge falsehood because of several reasons. Number one, we all know that those LLMs get it wrong. They get it wrong. I was researching something the other day and I said, oh, and my LM spit out the answer. And I said, oh, well, tell me where you got this from. And it literally wrote me back and said, to be honest, I made it up.
What?
It said I made it up. I said, you know what? It just sounded really good. I said, you got to be joking. Like, we can't do that. So I think relying on the LLM too much, we have to remember the LLMs are here to assist us.
Hmm.
They're not humans, they're not replacing. They can certainly help as a brainstorm partner and to map out things. So that's number one. Also, when it comes to journalism, you cannot have AI written things going into publications. It's just not allowed, right? You'll get blackballed.
Yeah.
So that's the other half. So I heard through another PR friend that, they represent an expert, industry expert, and that they were doing a Q&A and the industry expert gave back answers that were from like ChatGPT. And she had to go back to her client and say, exactly, you can't do that. And the client was surprised, like, why not? Sounds good, but you cannot for the same exact reason, because sometimes they make stuff up. And the
It
journalist,
does.
the journalist
And
wants to hear from you. If not, they would have just went to ChatGPT or whoever it is, on their
right, why
own.
do I need to talk to you?
So I think with the LLMs, it's really about figuring out systems to help you organize. It's like, protocols, your SOPs. It's like it's a way to kind of streamline things. And I
Hmm.
think the best way that smart businesses will find to use it. But you also need to make sure you're doing it the right way, because there's a lot of times that an LLM won't know the context of your industry or of your business. And that's where a lot of times the advice they give is wrong. It might fit for something else, but considering what your business is, the advice they're giving may not be applicable. It could be actually the opposite. And
Right.
so you got to be careful about the right way to use things, and just use it as a partner in things. That I think that's the best way.
I would agree 100%. Now we're going
Mhm.
to have some fun.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And since your industry is PR,
Yes.
when I ask you these questions, I want you to either answer influencer marketing,
Mhm.
brand deal, or
Mhm.
UGC.
Okay.
Okay, you
Yeah.
ready? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. A new skincare brand with almost no audience.
UGC.
A fitness coach trying to build trust quickly.
UGC.
A local bakery wanting more customers.
Influencer.
A creator with 5,000 followers but high engagement.
Brand deal.
A beauty brand launching a new product.
Earned media.
You
Put that in there. Earned media.
gonna throw that in the mix?
Yeah.
A consultant trying to build authority.
This is going to be different, but I would say a brand deal. I would say a
Okay.
brand deal because you don't need an influencer, you don't need a UGC. I mean, you could, but really a brand deal would like set it off. If you're a consultant and you get, Samsung to sponsor you to be on the Essence stage or,
Right.
whatever else it is, get that brand deal. And also because you're not tied to another brand right now. it's appealing. So I would say brand deal.
Brand deal. Okay. A small business with a limited budget.
UGC.
A creator wanting to turn content into income.
Brand deal. Because they already are the influencer, so brand deal.
A brand trying to reach Gen Z.
Influencer.
A business owner who hates being on camera.
UGC. Mhm.
Very good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is just about connection, the authenticity, and then the
Mhm,
reach. When you're thinking about certain things, it's like, what's the best way to do it? And timing and budget, what's the best way to do it and to expand on it? Where are the opportunities where we actually see the value of things?
mhm. So
Yeah.
what's next for First and Last PR? What you
Ah.
doing?
We are preparing for a holiday, believe it or not. I know that it's 80 degrees out right now, but in
Mm-hmm.
PR world, we are preparing for a holiday gift guides, and encouraging, all of our current clients and clients to start preparing for holiday season. And I'm also thinking about 2027. We have an event that we're actually looking for brand partners and sponsors for. We have an event we're going to be putting together for brands. And so outreach for those things are starting as well, even though 2027 probably sounds far away, it's not. So just continuing to scale, continuing to build, and make sure that we're working with, the right high growth brands that have the best opportunities to be able to give them the service that they're looking for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being on Side Hustle Saturday. This was such a joy. I was so excited. I was like, oh, she said
Of course, of course.
that. But thank you so much. Tell the people if they want to work with you, ask you some questions, get in contact with you. How do people get in contact with Stephanie?
Oh, yeah, that would be great. And for your listeners open to it, of course, they can check out our website. We're at firstandlastpr.com. Everything is spelled out. So firstandlastpr.com. Instagram, First and Last PR, TikTok, First and Last PR. I'm on LinkedIn. So that's another great way to connect with me there. We have our company page, and then also just Stephanie LinkedIn/Stephanie Scott Bradshaw. And yeah.
Well, thank you again. And for all y'all Side Hustle Saturday people out there, y'all know what to do. You need to subscribe to Side Hustle Saturday so you can hear more great stories from entrepreneurs who are out here building that ecosystem and out here doing it because you want to get that idea off the napkin and into a business. Am I right about
Yes.
it? Again, thank you, Stephanie, and Side Hustle Saturday. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you, Lisa.